So it's an ordinary Saturday afternoon. I arrive in the parking lot of the temple, got my supplies with me, suitcase, and in that suitcase is a big black silk robe, a big wide-brimmed black hat, and a big fluffy fake black beard. Because I am a fake rabbi. And it's all because, as you may have guessed, I answered an ad on Craigslist. It was about 10 years ago, and I saw this ad. They were looking for a comedian and character actor in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area who was Jewish and who could pretend to be a fake rabbi at bar and bat mitzvahs and weddings. And I think I answered the ad because it occurred to me that if I didn't answer the ad, nobody else would. There's a stereotype that Jewish comedians are abundant. We're everywhere. But actually, in D.C., I know a lot of the stand-up community, and there aren't that many Jews. I tried to do a Hanukkah-themed stand-up show one year. We found 4 Jews. 4 Jewish comedians, that's it. And then one of them, when he came to the show, said, yeah, I didn't want to tell you guys in advance. I know my name is Andy Klein, but I'm not actually Jewish. So, pretty scarce. So I answered this ad, and I found myself on the phone with a man named Michael Pasternak. Now, Michael Pasternak is an actor living in L.A. His claim to fame is that he was in the original Egg McMuffin commercial. On the side, he does something that he calls corporate Columbo, where he will dress as the Detective Columbo and come into your office party or function and pretend to solve the mystery of who didn't finish the coffee or something like that. I don't know who hires him to do this, but somebody presumably does. And so he starts telling me about this fake rabbi thing. And the story goes that years ago, Michael Pasternak, at his own wedding, decided it would be great to put on a fake beard and pretend to be an Orthodox rabbi and come in and make fun of everybody and leave. And somehow, after this wedding, someone must have come up to him and said, hey, that was really funny. You should found troops of fake rabbis all around the nation. Because that's exactly what he did. And so there are fake rabbi troops in Southern California, in Las Vegas, Chicago, New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Baltimore, D.C., South Florida, and for some reason, Texas. So he's explaining all this to me, and he says, so here's what it entails. And so this is how a typical gig would go. I would come to, usually it's a bar bat mitzvah, maybe a wedding. I'd come in dressed as an Orthodox rabbi, and I take the microphone away from whoever has it, and I say, excuse me, folks, oh, I'm sorry I'm late. Ugh, I made the left where I should have made the right, but I'm here now, and I'm just so glad that you're all here, and are you ready to get started? People are like, yeah. I'm like, okay, where's the bride and groom? And it being a bar mitzvah, this is hilarious. So then, of course, I have to look confused and say, wait a minute, you mean this isn't the Shapiro Goldfarb wedding? Oh, yeah, I lost. I'm so sorry. Ugh, well, this looks like a beautiful simcha anyway, a wonderful party. You folks enjoy yourselves, have a wonderful time, have a little something to nosh. I have to go find this wedding. And then I start walking off. And then I pretend that I have an idea, and I come back, and I take the microphone again, and I say, oh, I'm sorry to interrupt one more time, but by any chance, would this happen to be Jason's bar mitzvah? Yay! I know. People pay for this. And so, of course, I recognize all of you. Oh, Grandma so-and-so. And then for the next few minutes, I'm going around and making fun of people's relatives via this script that the people in L.A. have written and emailed to me and that I've memorized. And then finally, so a typical joke, for example, would be something like, where's Grandma Sophie? There she is. Oh, Sophie, so good to see you. Folks, you may not know this about Wait a minute. You're not the real Grandma Sophie. You can't be, because the real Grandma Sophie is probably off playing bridge. And everyone who knows Grandma Sophie and knows that she likes to play bridge is like, oh, Grandma Sophie, you always play so much bridge. That's what this is. And meanwhile, all the people who don't know Grandma Sophie, like the parents' co-workers and the whole table of 13-year-old boys are just looking at me like, what the hell is going on? So then at the end of making fun of all the relatives, the last thing is we say, oh, and of course, Jason is here, the bar mitzvah boy. Jason, stand up. Wait a minute. Where is he? He's not here. And before I tell you where Jason is and what happens next to make this even stranger, I should back up a little bit and explain why the hell I'm doing this at all. Because, as Amy mentioned, I have a job. It's a real job. I got a PhD in order to do it. But I've always had this love for these weird little random gigs. I've done all kinds of strange, quirky things that I'm just enamored of this lifestyle of the artist that has weird gigs. I've put on a tuxedo with tails and a top hat and white gloves and held doors at a Kenny Loggins concert. Not at random. Someone paid me to do it. I have dressed up as a paparazzo from the 50s and pretended to take pictures of people at weddings. I have been murdered multiple times during corporate murder mysteries. I have performed stand-up at an after prom and on a cruise ship. I did a one-man show on a strange little island off the coast of Maine. I was once a thug in a Korean soap opera. Only in a Korean soap opera, by the way, would I be considered a thug. I think it was probably more of a goon, but and so I do all these things because they're fun and interesting and quirky, and so that sort of brings us to the next step in the rabbi gig, which is where I say, "Where's the bar mitzvah boy?" I know where he is, and then I call out the door, Shmuley, Avram, Moishe, if you have Jason, bring him in. And then that is the cue for 3 more fake rabbis to come in, carrying the bar mitzvah boy on their shoulders. There's music playing, dum-da-da-da-da, dum-da-da-da-da, and they're all coming in, and they're all circling around, and everyone is very confused. And I say, Jason, because we're so proud of you and all that you have accomplished today, we have a little something that we would like to do for you. That is when I step aside and the 3 other fake rabbis take out wine bottles, which they balance on top of their hats, and they proceed to do the bottle dance from Fiddler on the Roof. Now, the bottles do not fall off of their heads. People wonder if it's a trick. It's not a trick. These are just professional dancers, and this is how professional dancers make money when they're not at Toby's Dinner Theater in Olney, Maryland. They're spending weekend afternoons in Owings Mills. So they dance with the bottles on their heads. It's wonderful. And then I bring everybody up for the hora, and my job is to call the hora. So I've got the microphone, and I'm telling everyone to go to the left, to the right. For those of you who don't know what the hora is, because you're not Jewish, it's basically like a Jewish hokey pokey. You get people in 2 giant concentric circles going opposite directions, but it's too crowded to really move, and no one can go anywhere, and no one knows what's going on. So it's basically the Jewish folk dance equivalent of $4.95. Hey. I use that at bar mitzvahs. They love it. So after all that is done, we say goodbye, and that's the whole gig. And there was one particular gig, and I've done almost 100 of these now over the course of the past 10 years. Rabbi gigs have seen me from grad school all the way to now having 2 kids, and just that whole spectrum of life that can occur within a decade. But one gig in particular taught me a little something and kind of changed my view of what these rabbi gigs really mean. And that was a time when we finished a gig, we're walking away, and the mother of the bar mitzvah boy is walking after us. And sometimes this happens, they'll come after us and they'll say, oh, thank you so much for coming, or something like that, which is a relief, because then we know that they're not going to call Michael Pasternak and ask for a refund. And this time, this woman looked like half happy, half angry. It's a strange face. It's like, and I thought maybe it's because she was experiencing both emotions, but it wasn't. It was because she was just experiencing the anger, but it was so strong that she didn't know how to position her face. So it was just this. And she comes up to me, and she doesn't say hi, she doesn't say thanks. She just says, you didn't make fun of my sister. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't think I did. No. And she said, you know, the sister who only eats salads. Like I'm like running through the bits in my head. I'm like, all right, I made fun of. There's the cousin, there's the husband, there was the kid and his brother. I don't remember his sister eating salad, and I thought, okay, here's what must have happened. The folks in L.A. either they couldn't think of a funny joke about a sister who eats salads, or the hilarious premise though it is. Or maybe they forgot. Maybe they just left the joke out, and happens sometimes. So I said to her, well, sorry about that. I hope your sister wasn't offended. And the woman says, well, she walked out. So it turns out this woman's sister never felt like part of the family. And here they are at this bar mitzvah where she has hired a fake rabbi to come in and make fun of everybody, the grandmother, the uncles, the cousins, everybody except this sister who eats salads. And it must have seemed to her like a passive-aggressive way of communicating that she's not really in the family. As those of you who are Jewish are aware, passive aggression is a language that we have to communicate with our family members. So, driving back from the gig that day, it occurred to me that, I think of this stuff as these quirky, fun, random, interesting little gigs where I get to be putting on a beard and hiding in the hallway. But to these people who hire us, this is their one big day. This is the bar mitzvah with 200 people they haven't seen in years. This is their wedding that they've been planning for so long. And even though this one wasn't my fault, I have to remember that what I do in that room, as fun and interesting as it is to me as a little side job, to them it's the difference between, hey, those wacky rabbis came and danced, or, and that was the night that Aunt Janine stopped talking to the family. And I'm reminded of the words that my new mother-in-law said to me at my wedding right afterwards. She came up to me and said, and this is absolutely true, this is what she said. She said, "We're not losing a daughter. We're gaining a fake rabbi." And so I will close the same way that we close all of our gigs with the when we're at someone's bar mitzvah. Here's what we say right before we walk out the door. We say, "Thank you, folks, so much for coming out. We really appreciate it. We are the Amazing Bottle Dancers. You can check it out at amazingbottledancers.com. And thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of this wonderful party." Thank you.